When we trace the historical roots of Southern hip hop, the map is heavily defined by legendary, well established regional epicenters. The Gulf Coast, and specifically the sprawling metropolis of Houston, has long served as a crucial testing ground for some of the genre's most iconic stylistic innovations. For decades, the sonic architecture of Texas rap was built on very distinct pillars: the slowed down, narcotic tempos created by DJ Screw, the hyper-lyrical pimp culture narratives of UGK, and the metallic, grill-flashing, slab-writing aesthetics that artists like Paul Wall and Slim Thug brought to the mainstream in the mid-2000s. Yet within that rich, heavily documented history, the Chicano and Mexican-American lived experience was often pushed to the margins, confined to the niche subgenres or hyper-localized distribution networks. That all changed with the explosive arrival of Virgil Gazca, known to the world as that Mexican OT, emerging from the Texas underground to become a globally recognized Billboard charting phenomenon, partnered with Interscope Records. Gazca represents a massive, undeniable paradigm shift. The media is quick to label him a product of contemporary, algorithmic virility, but that narrative completely ignores the harrowing, complex biographical reality that built him. His rise is rooted in profound personal tragedy, the intense psychological weight of parental dynamics, and brutal dedication to vocal craftsmanship. By seamlessly weaving the traditions of his Mexican-American heritage, mariachi instrumentation, and narco corrido storytelling into the gritty cadences of traditional Texas hip-hop, that Mexican OT has created a sound that defies simple categorization. This is our deep dive, the synchronism of Chicano identity, and the crucible of the out-of-Texas sound. To accurately comprehend the lyrical density and the aggressive emotional gravity that fuels that Mexican odds catalog, we have to rewind his formative years in Bay City, Texas. Bay City is a unique environment located southwest of Houston, a place Gazca vividly describes as existing at the precipice intersection of the country, but it's the ghetto too. This duality exposed him early on to both rural isolation and the systemic hardships of underserved urban life. Before tragedy struck, the absolute center of his universe was his mother, Sophia Ann Gazca. Sophia was far more than a peripheral parent figure. She and Virgil were best friends, and she was the very first person to recognize his innate linguistic agility. She championed his talent when he was just 4 years old, gifting him his first stage name, V-Man. Sophia was also a complex woman, deeply entrenched in the harsh survival economics of her environment. Gazca was candidly shared stories such as an anecdote from the Joe Rogan Experience about how a local associate remembered Sophia because she actually taught him how to cook hard, a reference to preparing crack cocaine. She was fiercely loving, yet entirely familiar with the grit of the streets. That foundational stability was violently eradicated in 2007 when Sophia was killed by a drunk driver. Gazca was only 8 years old. With his mother gone and his father frequently cycling through the penal system, the young boy was plunged into severe psychological dislocation. Bereft of supervision, a grieving first-grade Gazca and his cousins would run rampant into the night, literally navigating the dark underground municipal sewer systems of his town. It was a chilling manifestation of his internal state, a traumatized child wandering through a pitch-black infrastructure, entirely unequipped to process such a catastrophic loss. Following the devastating loss of his mother, the transition from aimless childhood wandering to structured musical output was not driven by a desire for fame or commercial success. It emerged organically as a deeply necessary psychological survival mechanism. Assembling words into rhythmic patterns ceased to be the carefree parlor trick of his V-Man persona and rapidly evolved into critical utility. Music became the primary mechanism through which the young Gazca learned how to cognitively organize the chaos of his emotions and express the immense void left by his mother. The very first lyrics he wrote after her passing were raw, unvarnished processing tools, using the structure of hip-hop cadence to handle an unbearable reality. The lifelong dedication to immortalizing her memory eventually crystallized in his formal discography, most notably with Mama's Song, a deeply emotional record released on his 2021 independent project, 100. The track operates not just as a standard tribute, but as a sonic mausoleum, allowing Gazca to publicly vocalize the persistent agony of maternal deprivation. This origin story embeds an undeniable layer of authenticity into his artistry. It reveals that beneath the hyper-masculine posturing, the threats of violence, and the aggressive double-tongue flows that characterize his viral hits, there lies the soul of a grieving child, desperately seeking a connection with a lost parent. While the loss of his mother provided the emotional bedrock of his music, the intense physical and performative discipline of his career was forged by a highly unorthodox, deeply stressful parental dynamic. Following Sophia's death, the parental vacuum was further complicated by the chronic absence of his biological father, Chuck Marino. Throughout Gazca's critical development stages, Marino was frequently entangled in the Texas penal system, serving various extended stints behind bars. However, from such a psychological perspective, this physical absence massively heightened Gazca's reverence for his father, creating an intense, almost mythological idolization where Gazca views his father like my god. The actual interactions between them during Marino's incarceration were fundamentally adversarial and heavily influenced by the hyper-masculine environment of the prison system. Rather than engaging in traditional emotional bonding during visitations, Marino utilized these severely limited windows to aggressively stress test his young son. He would force an elementary school-age Gazca to engage in highly competitive rap battles against hardened adult inmates and street associates. Marino's obsession with Gazca's musical dominance was so dictatorial that he would sometimes wake the child from a deep sleep in the middle of the night just to initiate an impromptu rap battle, and even encourage him to skip formal schooling to focus strictly on rapping. This brutal performative crucible permanently stripped away any latent stage fright, training Gazca to view lyrical performance as a direct mechanism for survival and the sole method for securing his father's elusive approval. The intense paternal engineering extended far beyond mental and verbal combat. It was deeply rooted in extreme physical conditioning. Upon release into the civilian world, Chuck Marino operated as a professional fitness coach. Leveraging his professional expertise in body mechanics and weightlifting, Marino brought a strict martial ethos into his parenting style, forcing Gazca out of bed at extremely early hours to undergo exhausting, rigorous physical training regimens. Gazca developed a profound admiration for specialized physical skills, frequently drawing direct parallels between the intense discipline required to master martial arts, like jiu-jitsu, and the mastery required to dominate the musical field. This grueling physical exertion had a profound, direct, and measurable impact on Gazca's technical abilities as a recording artist. The intense workouts massively expanded his lung capacity, cardiovascular endurance, and diaphragmatic control. In the modern era of rapid-fire Southern hip-hop, contemporary artists heavily rely on studio punch-ins, recording a song one line at a time, and struggle to replicate their flows live without heavy vocal backing tracks. Marino's relentless training effectively turned Gazca's body into a highly efficient respiratory engine. This deep cardiovascular training provides the extreme vocal stamina required for Gazca to execute his signature, uninterrupted, rapid-fire lyrical barrages on stage, allowing him to deliver complex rhyme schemes without ever audibly gasping for air or losing his rhythmic pocket. To fully analyze the sonic structure of that Mexican OT, we must meticulously map the specific geocultural infrastructure that incubated him. Gazca's development years spanned across the rural, suburban, and urban corridors of Texas, featuring the deep rural environs of Bay City, the suburban educational infrastructure of Stony Point High School in Round Rock, and the Central Texas rap battlegrounds of Bryan. Bay City operates as a unique sociological microcosm, inherently exposing him to the duality of agrarian life and urban street culture. In this specific environment, it is entirely commonplace for residents to embody a synthesis of both worlds. Gazca has pointed out that a person might be dressed in contemporary urban streetwear, Jordan sneakers, Levi jeans and a polo shirt, and immediately mount a horse to engage in intense manual ranch labor. Crucially, this is not a performative aesthetic for Gazca. It is rooted in actual lived physical labor. Unlike artists who cosplay the cowboy lifestyle for algorithmic clout, Gazca actively worked on ranches, built miles of fences, and helped cows give birth. Concurrently, his proximity to Houston heavily immersed him in the urban slab car culture. Customized classic cars, outfitted with extended wire wheels and neon lighting. Texas, as he accurately describes it, is a massive melting pot where distinct demographics intermingle, fueling his desire to represent the entire state loudly as out of Texas. The transition from a localized battle rapper navigating a dangerous adolescence into a structured recording artist required crucial intervention. Around the 7th grade, struggling with severe self-esteem issues and existential dread regarding his limited future prospects, Gazca recognized that escaping the street-to-prison pipeline required total dedication to his craft. His extended family, particularly his uncle, provided the most vital piece of infrastructure: a fully functioning makeshift recording studio. Spending countless hours locked in the studio, Gazca absorbed the foundational pillars of Texas hip-hop from his older cousins, studying the narcotic sounds of the Screwed Up Click and the specific cadence structures of Slim Thug and Lil Keke. By his junior year of high school, he radically rededicated himself, releasing his first independent project, Southern Texas Project, in 2020. This caught the attention of manager Greg Gates, who pushed Gazca to evolve technically from someone who focused purely on delivering rapid-fire bars to an artist who understood how to craft cohesive hooks and melodies. This evolution peaked when he began incorporating traditional Mexican guitar-driven production. A light bulb moment when his track La Muerte seamlessly integrated his Mexican-American heritage. Influenced by narco-corrido legend Chelino Sanchez, with the rebellious energy of classic rock bands like AC/DC, Slipknot, and the traditional country storytelling of George Strait. Technically, he weaponized his heritage by integrating the alveolar trill, the rolling R of the Spanish language, into rapid syncopation of southern trap beats, turning his tongue into a highly localized percussive instrument that standard English phonetics simply cannot naturally replicate. The massive commercial validation of that Mexican OT's hybrid sound arrived with the undeniable velocity in 2023, driven almost entirely by the release of his breakthrough single Johnny Dang, featuring guest appearances from Texas rap veteran Paul Wall and Drody. The track served as an absolute masterclass in regional marketing and cultural bridging. It paid direct homage to Houston's famed jeweler and effectively connected the new generation of Chicano rap with the legacy infrastructure of Houston's mid-2000s mainstream dominance. The impact was staggering, successfully breaching the Billboard Top 100 chart at number 65 and facilitating his immediate transition to a highly lucrative major label partnership with Interscope Records. As an exhaustive analysis of his streaming metrics across platforms, like Spotify and YouTube indicates, a highly engaged, high-retention listener base, definitively proving he is a sustained catalog artist rather than a single algorithmic anomaly. While the hip-hop industry immediately recognized his distinct flow, superficial comparisons have occasionally been drawn between his rapid-fire delivery and contemporary artists like DaBaby and Kevin Gates. Gazca has publicly and aggressively dismissed the DaBaby comparisons, asserting that his own delivery is vastly superior in its phonetic complexity, breath control, and regional authenticity, though he humbly yields to Gates specifically regarding melodic singing ability. He has firmly established a proprietary sonic architecture that honors his deep-rooted Texas origins while completely dominating the modern digital landscape. We've reached the end of the deep dive. Before we sign off, it's time for final thoughts. When we look at the incredible turbulent trajectory of Virgil Gazca, the natural reaction of our modern digital culture is to view him merely as a fascinating, high-energy spectacle. We see the cowboy hats, the custom diamond grills, the viral TikTok clips, and the flawless double-tongue flows, and we treat it all as highly entertaining, larger-than-life character. It is incredibly easy to consume the music while completely separating ourselves from the actual human cost, the pain, and the relentless discipline that went into creating it. But if you peel back the layers of the Out of Texas phenomenon, you realize that this story isn't a unique rap style or a successful Billboard chart run. It is a profound story about the radical power of psychological alchemy. We live in a world that frequently allows trauma to completely break people. We watch as generational cycles of incarceration, sudden loss, and systemic isolation tear families apart and destroy young futures. But what the Mexican aunt represents is a masterclass in turning that exact pain into a specialized weapon of survival. He took an 8-year-old boy's devastating world-shattering grief over a deceased mother and used it as an immovable emotional anchor. He took the intimidating, hyper-masculine pressure of prison visitation rooms, rapping against grown men as a child, and used it to completely obliterate stage fright. He took the sheer physical exhaustion of manual ranch labor and intense morning workouts and used it to expand his physical capacity to absolutely dominate his craft. He didn't succeed by running away from the dark chapters of his life. He didn't succeed by putting on a fake focus group mask or pretending to be something he wasn't. He succeeded by claiming every single piece of his broken reality. The country dirt, the ghetto struggles, the rich Mexican folklore, and the heavy Texas trap, and forced the entire music industry to meet him on his own terms. It's a powerful reminder for all of us that our origins do not have to be our destinations. The struggles, the losses, and the heavy environments that we inherit can either be the walls of our prison, or they can be the very crucible that refines our greatest strengths. We don't have to erase our scars to build an empire. We have to be brave enough to speak our truth with an unshakable, authentic voice. Let's make sure we appreciate the raw humanity behind the art we consume, and let's respect the sheer, undeniable discipline it takes to turn absolute tragedy into absolute triumph. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.